Hey there and welcome to SI Now. It's Friday, January 27th, and I'm Ryan Aselta. We've got a fun show for you to wrap up the week. We're going to catch up with former NFL wide receiver Greg Jennings in just a bit. But let's begin today with a quick ride on the bus. When Jerome Bettis was inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame back in 2015, he was very quick to give credit to a man that paved the way for his success, his high school coach, Bob Dozier. Recently, our Maggie Gray had a chance to talk with the bus and the man that started him on his path to greatness.
Coach, I want to say thank you. Thank you, Coach. When I was starting to go down the wrong path, and Coach Dozier, he said, son, you have a chance to be special, but you've got to go on the right path.
That was Jerome Bettis thanking his high school coach in his Hall of Fame speech in 2015. And I'm pleased to be joined by Bettis and his coach, Bob Dozier. They're joining us from the Pro Bowl in Orlando. It's all part of the Thank You Coach initiative. And Jerome, I'll start with you. You said Coach put you on the right path. What exactly did he do for you?
Well, there was a moment in my high school life that I was starting to hang out with some of the wrong people, do some bad things, and Coach got a wind of it, and he came to my home and talked to my mom and dad and explained to them that, one, Jerome had tremendous potential, but he wasn't doing the right things, and that he wanted to make sure that they understood that, you know, of what was going on, and that I needed to get on the right path. And I got everything corrected, went down the correct path, and Coach was able to get me to college and then on to the NFL.
That's fantastic. And Coach Dozier, we see you're wearing that shirt. The bus started here. Well, you actually can take some credit because you moved Jerome Bettis from linebacker to running back. So great insight by you. What was your favorite memory from coaching Jerome?
Well, how tough he was. And we were playing a team called Redford one day, and they had been sending notes to the high school all week, and Jerome was kind of apprehensive. He got a little afraid, I think. And they were rocking our bus when we got to their field, and I just walked up and down the aisle and told the guys, hey, we'll take care of that when it starts. So he came up to me, he said, Coach, I don't know how I'm gonna do today. I'm kind of a little taken back here. I said, you just let them know what they're thinking of you is not the real you. First play, he broke through the line and ran over 4 guys, okay? Second play, 7 yards, he did the same thing. And then the third play, he ran the line, ran over 2 guys, broke to the outside, hit 2 guys out there, and walked chalk on that line for 72 yards for a touchdown. And those defensive backs who were track guys just stood in the middle field shaking their head because they couldn't believe they had the wrong interpretation of this guy.
And I can imagine it in my head. It sounds like the Jerome Bettis that we knew from Notre Dame and also from the NFL. You know, if I'm not mistaken, Mackenzie High School no longer exists. I read that it was closed and then it was demolished.
Right.
So considering the school Jerome is not there physically, how much more do those memories start to mean?
The memories are special because, you know, what the school was able to do for me, I was able to finish school there on the National Honor Society. So it wasn't just about the football, it was about the educational process as well. So, you know, there's a lot of memories that go back to Mackenzie High School, but also some of the great players that came there before I played there and after I left there. So there was a lot of great players that played there in all sports, not just football. But Coach Dozier, he was a centerpiece of that football program there, and we had some great success when we were there.
Oh, we're seeing photos of you with the flat top haircut. Oh, Jerome Bettis, that was a sweet look.
Oh, my goodness.
We got to move on. I want to ask, of course, about what's happening with the Pittsburgh Steelers right now and Ben Roethlisberger's comments expressing some frustration, hinting that he may retire. Now, you combine that with the quotes he had about the team lacking maturity. You know Ben well. Jerome, is he trying to send a message? And if so, to whom?
I don't think he's trying to send a message. I think this is the reality of it. When you look at Ben Roethlisberger and you look at how he plays the game very physical, and you also have to think about, multiple injuries through the course of his entire career. He's been hurt quite a bit. So it starts to catch up with you as a football player, and you start to realize that, you know what, I'm not immortal. There's going to come a time when I have to walk away from the game. And then, he's got his children to think about, his wife, his family. So he's got a lot of considerations that he's thinking about in this time. And so you want to go through that and make sure that you can recharge your batteries, emotionally and mentally and physically to get ready for another season. I hope that's the case because I really believe he still has some great football ahead of him.
Okay, so you think he may be considering this seriously, but you expect him to be back next year?
I do. I expect him to be back. And if he is sending the messages, it's got to be, one of those messages that, guys, I don't have much time left. Let's get it going.
Yeah, and the lacking maturity, well, you can look to Antonio Brown's Facebook Live. You can look at Joey Porter. The arrest in the postseason didn't help anything. Coach Dozier, does stories like Antonio Brown's Facebook and things like that make you happy that you stopped at the high school level? Or does it remind you of high school?
Yes. But, we had some of those problems in high school, too. But we worked hard. They understood what we wanted done as far as behavior, and they knew I would deal with it if it's not taken care of, by you yourself.
And I will say this, when there was an issue, it was swift, the discipline, and it was certain. I remember we had our quarterback missed practice because he wanted to go to a concert.
Michael Jackson.
He wanted to go to a concert, and consequently, he did not play that game. I ended up having to play quarterback, and I had never played quarterback before, but he was just that committed to right and wrong that he was willing to sacrifice the situation to prove the point to that young man that you have a responsibility to your teammates, and that has to come first.
He got fired. I still got him in college, a scholarship though, but he couldn't play with us anymore. And Jerome completed 2 passes for 17 yards and scored 2 touchdowns.
Unbelievable. Jerome Bettis, linebacker, running back, and quarterback. Who knew? I can't let you go without asking you for a Super Bowl prediction. And just in terms of these 2 sets of dynamic running backs with LeGarrette Blount and Dion Lewis for the Patriots and Devontae Freeman and Tevin Coleman for Atlanta, who do you see having the edge in that matchup? And ultimately, who do you think will win the game?
I think when you look at the running backs, I think the advantage has to go to the Atlanta Falcons. What they do, at the line of scrimmage and down the field in terms of receiving, I think when you put those 2 groups, one against each other, you've got to think Atlanta has the advantage there. But I will say this. The Patriots, they have a huge advantage in terms of experience. They've been to Super Bowls before and very recent. So the majority of the players on that team have been in this situation before and won a championship. So it's going to be hard for Atlanta to really fight that experience.
All right, so looks like you're picking the Patriots then, if I'm reading the tea leaves?
I live in Atlanta, so I'm going to root for Atlanta, but they've got a long and a tall hill to climb trying to beat the Patriots.
Very good. Jerome Bettis, the Hall of Famer, and Coach Dozier. It's such a pleasure talking with you both. And Coach Dozier and Jerome, just know during that Hall of Fame speech, not a dry eye in the house. So thank you very much for that. And
thank you.
Enjoy the Pro Bowl.
Thank you, Maggie.
Thank you,
Maggie.
Man, Jerome balancing himself on both sides of the fence when it comes to the Super Bowl. Sounds like he likes the Patriots, though. And speaking of the Super Bowl, our next guest not only played in the big game, he caught 2 touchdown passes in his team's Super Bowl 45 victory. Maggie recently caught up with former Packers wide receiver Greg Jennings, who gave his take on the Packers' playoff run and exit in the NFC Championship game.
Greg Jennings, newly hired as a Fox Sports NFL analyst. Congratulations, and I'm sure this is going to be a lot of fun. So let's start with the team that you won a Super Bowl with, the Green Bay Packers. Now, they were on a magical run. They ran the table as Aaron Rodgers predicted. They beat the Cowboys. Then they get blown out by Atlanta. Greg, I don't want to be too dramatic here, but was that one of the worst losses in the history of the Packers?
I don't think it was one of the worst losses. I think it's one of the toughest losses to take because of the situation. NFC Championship game, right on the brink of getting where every team sets out to get at the beginning of the season. So I think that probably makes it sting a lot more. But I don't think it's the worst loss. I think this, again, the stage and the platform of which the loss took place, that hurts a lot.
We should talk about this game that's coming up, Super Bowl 51. Of course, I got to go to the wide receivers, and that's Julio Jones. Is he the greatest receiver right now, Greg? If so, can you make the case for Julio Jones?
You know what? All year, I've been on the Antonio Brown bandwagon. I've always been an Antonio Brown fan of what he's able to do and the numbers that he's able to produce. And I think, honestly, it's because I hadn't had the opportunity to really see Julio Jones. Watching him, it is scary. This kid is the best receiver in the game. Hands down, he is the best receiver in the game. Healthy or not healthy, he is the best receiver in the game.
Greg, can the Patriots scheme him out the way they did Antonio Brown in the AFC Championship game?
It's yet to be determined. I definitely think if there is a team or there is a defense that schemes opponents and tries to take away what you do best better than any other team, it is the New England Patriots. And they have no feelings of hiding that. They want you to see that he's going to have two guys on him all game. If you want to throw over there, you run the risk of two guys versus one.
I'm curious to just get into the mindset of a wide receiver because you mentioned that there's going to be two people covering Julio Jones in the Super Bowl, you believe. One of them will be Malcolm Butler. And he had one of the most unforgettable moments in Super Bowl history. What goes through a receiver's head when he knows he's going up against a corner who can change a game in just one play?
Well, one of the things about us as receivers, we don't give a DB credit once we're on the football field. We'll give them all the credit in the world once we're prepping for them and preparing to play against them. But once we're on the football field, it's you and me, mano y mano, and I believe I'm better than you. And so just you alluded to Malcolm Butler following. I don't believe that he's going to be the guy that follows him. Typically, Malcolm Butler is the guy that follows the smaller, shiftier guy. Julio is too big for Malcolm. But this is no knock on Malcolm Butler. But typically what the Patriots do is they'll put Logan on the bigger receivers and follow them. When we watched them play the Denver Broncos, Malcolm Butler didn't follow Thomas, he followed Emmanuel Sanders, and Logan was on Demaryius Thomas. So that's going to be something that it'll be interesting to see. But the one thing that I will say frustrates you is when you look across and you see two guys that you know are trying to take you out of that play because you understand from a offensive scheme, when your quarterback sees that, the odds of you really getting the ball go way down.
Greg, can't let you go without getting your Super Bowl pick. Who do you think is going to win this game?
You know what? I think the team that scores the most points is going to win this game. I'm gonna reveal my pick a little later in the week, next week.
Okay, how about this? Who are you leaning towards? We'll give you the option to take it back. Who are you leaning towards?
Okay, I can do that. I'm actually leaning towards the Falcons, but I'm not saying that I'm picking the Falcons.
Okay. Greg, again, congratulations on your new gig with Fox Sports. Really enjoy your analysis so far. Looking forward to much, much more. And have fun in Houston.
I appreciate it. Thanks so much for having me.
It's time for SI Now's Weekend Drive, presented by Toyota. Let's go places. First up, we head to LA for the NHL All-Star game. Finnish-born phenom Patrick Lane has scored 22 goals in his rookie campaign and is looking forward to experiencing his first All-Star weekend.
Just a lot of experience, and just meet the other guys, and just have a lot of fun, and just enjoy the weekend.
Lane will be Winnipeg's lone representative for the Central Division squad. Next up, we head down under for the women's singles final at the Australian Open. Venus and Serena Williams will square off in their first finals matchup since 2009. Looking for her 23rd Grand Slam title, Serena is excited for another chance to face her big sister for all the marbles.
I just feel like it's been a while, and it definitely is me. This probably is the moment of our careers so far. For me, I can definitely say for me. And, you know, I never lost hope of us being to play each other in a final, although it was hard because we're usually on the same side of the draw. So whenever we're on the opposite sides, I always definitely feel a lot better.
The match marks the Williams sisters' 9th Grand Slam final against each other. Serena has won 6 of the previous 8. Lastly, we head to Orlando for the NFL Pro Bowl. Cowboys rookie QB Dak Prescott had a very impressive season, but has been getting some tips this week from 10-time Pro Bowler Drew Brees.
I mean, I'm watching him walk off the field. I'm watching him tie his shoes, watching him in drills, and the way how detailed he is. I mean, we're at the Pro Bowl. You can have fun, you can be relaxed, but he's still locked in. He's focused. He's trying to learn this playbook as quick as he can. It's unbelievable, and that's the reason he had the success he's had.
Prescott's season QB rating ranked 3rd among QBs with over 200 completions, behind only Matt Ryan and Tom Brady. And that's what's in store for this weekend. All right, now to the NBA, where All-Star Weekend is still a little less than a month away, but the rosters for the game are coming under some big-time scrutiny this week. Let's talk some hoops with Sports Illustrated NBA writer Rajon, who joins me now. And Rajon, when the starters come out and the reserves come out, always a lot of scrutiny when it comes to those rosters. Let's start with the Eastern Conference. The reserves are out. When you look at this roster of guys who made the All-Star team, who's the biggest snub in the Eastern Conference?
So I think, first of all, we got to give the coaches credit. I think the reserves especially, they did a good job. They got most of the players right. There's not a huge snub in the East. If we're looking at anyone, it's got to be Joel Embiid of the Philadelphia 76ers. He would have made it under the old voting rules if it was only the fans. Instead, you know, the fans vote him in, but the players and coaches don't vote him in. So Embiid's been great so far this year for Philly, there's no doubt. He's leading a mini renaissance, at least so far through 2017. But there are knocks against him. He doesn't play back-to-backs. I think he's played less than 800 minutes so far this season. And as great as he's been when he's on the court, he just hasn't been on the court enough to kind of justify that all-star selection. So Embiid's the only one with a real snub, you know, label on him. There are some other guys, legacy guys, Carmelo Anthony, Dwayne Wade. I think they've each been in the All-Star game the last 12 seasons. You know, those are guys who are fan favorites. Wade was a winner of the fan vote, but unfortunately aren't playing well enough to, you know, earn a selection. So we'll miss seeing those kind of legacy guys in the game. And, you know, it leaves the question, should there be a legacy spot or something like that? But those are the only guys in the East who really have a case for maybe being in the game.
Yeah, kind of strange seeing no Carmelo, no Dwayne Wade. Embiid tweeted out that the popular vote loses again when it came to him getting the snub. First time around there, Kemba Walker, so it'll be good to see Kemba in the All-Star game. How about out West? Surprises when you look at the reserve list?
Yeah, there's only one really, and that's Chris Paul. You wonder if the coaches kind of made a decision, okay, Chris is injured. He's not going to play in the game anyway. Let's keep him out. But there's a process for that. They have the injury replacement. It would have been nice for him to earn that label. Adam Silver could have been appointed a replacement. So DeAndre Jordan made it in as a Clippers representative. DeAndre's been great this season, there's no doubt. But you wonder, should someone like Rudy Gobert have maybe made it in over DeAndre Jordan? Gobert's been outstanding for the Jazz. I mean, he's really the anchor of that defense. Makes a huge impact whenever he's on the court. So guys like Chris Paul, Rudy Gobert maybe have a little bit of a case. But, you know, I don't know if they're snubs necessarily as much as there are just so many great players that, you know, it was someone who was going to get left off.
Yeah, Jordan joining Gordon Hayward as first-timers. Damian Lillard, maybe a bit of a snub, 26 points per game. He does not make the All-Star team. All right, let's move on from the All-Star chatter. Discuss the contentious situation in Chicago. Jimmy Butler and Dwayne Wade fired the first shots, calling out the efforts of their teammates of late. Well, last night, Rajon Rondo retaliated by going on an Instagram rant, criticizing Butler and Wade, saying, "My vets would never go to the media." And he posted a picture of his former Celtics teammates. They would come to the team. My vets didn't pick and choose when they wanted to bring it. Now we went on to question the leadership of the veterans. We've heard from both sides here on Instagram and in some interviews as well. Is it tough to side with Rondo, knowing the history he's had in locker rooms of the past?
Oh, I mean, this is one of the most ludicrous things I've seen in my entire life. Let's just ignore the Dwayne Wade, Jimmy Butler part of this for a second. Rajon Rondo, this is the most hypocritical, ridiculous thing I've seen in a long time. We're talking about someone who, at the end of his Boston tenure admitted, yeah, I'm not really playing defense anymore, was so hated in Dallas that his teammates said, stay away from us during a playoff series, voted not to give him a playoff share. And then the Sacramento Kings signed him, and after 1 year, the Kings, one of the most dysfunctional organizations in the NBA, said, we want nothing to do with this guy. This Bulls team never really made any sense, and quite frankly, I'm shocked it took this long for something like this to happen. Dwayne Wade said all the right things when him and Rondo kind of got together in the summer. Those guys, of course, have a history. I mean, Rajon Rondo has quit on his team. He's chased stats. He's been a malcontent for so long. For him to come out with something like this, I mean, he just set napalm to any bridges back to Chicago. I mean, I don't see how he plays for this team again. And Rajon Rondo, it's a pot calling the kettle black situation. I mean, this is ridiculous.
How much does it reflect on the coach, Fred Hoiberg, a young NBA coach? It doesn't look good, I would think, looking at his locker room starting to crack a bit.
Yeah, it just looks like Hoiberg has no control right now. And frankly, this started at the beginning of last season. I mean, Jimmy Butler was saying he's not pushing us hard enough. Chicago's front office has just made a bunch of bad decisions in a row, quite frankly. I mean, and he was sold as this offensive genius, and frankly, he hasn't done it. I mean, in his defense, they haven't necessarily given him the pieces to run a modern NBA offense. I mean, they signed 2 guards this summer who can't shoot. But he hasn't proved that he can bring that level of sophistication to Chicago's offense. And in addition to that, the locker room stuff is a little troubling.
Yeah, you mentioned making their bones. Well, how about the latest bonehead move? We're going to move on to that from a professional athlete. Check this out. The Thunder's Enes Kanter, last night, he slams his forearm on a chair after being removed from the game. Now, following the game, X-rays reveal a fracture to Kanter's forearm. He could be out for 2 months. Here is Russell Westbrook after the game on that injury.
Yeah, it's tough, man. Like I said, it's very unfortunate, but, things happen. And he definitely, if he wanted to take it back, definitely could, he would. But I think, now we got to look forward and try to figure out what's the positive things, get him back healthy as soon as possible.
Rajon, you can't have injuries like this on your team, slamming the chair. Let's talk X's and O's wise. How big of a deal is this for the Thunder?
So, honestly, it's not awful for them. They can get by. Enes Kanter, I mean, he puts up big numbers. He's a great scoring option off the bench for him. There's no doubt about that. Still, when you kind of take a deeper look at the numbers, the Thunder really only get a good impact from Kanter when he's on the court with Westbrook. When it's just Kanter on the court, they're still kind of a minus team. They're in that negative net rating situation. So as long as Westbrook is playing and he's playing well and he's been outstanding so far this season, I think they'll be roughly where they are, even with Kanter in the lineup. The truth is, I mean, Kanter's defense is still it's just not good enough. So, whenever he's not sharing the court with Russell Westbrook, it doesn't really matter. So it won't be a gigantic impact. I mean, obviously they'll lose some scoring punch and they'll have to find a way to make up those points somewhere. Maybe Steven Adams gets some more minutes. Right. Maybe Domantas Sabonis kind of gets a little bit of a scoring load increase, but it's not as bad as people think. I mean, Kanter is a very skilled offensive player, but he hasn't proven he can carry the team in those stretches without Westbrook. So it's not necessarily all doom or gloom. All
right, Rajon Nadkarni, can read him on SI.com on the crossover. Rajon, no slamming the chair on the way out of here today.
No, man. Hey, the paid time off would be nice, though. The paid time off.
All right, that's going to do it for this Friday edition of SI Now. We'll be back with you Monday at 1 p.m. Eastern as we kick off Super Bowl week from Houston. Until then, stick with SI.com for all the latest news. And don't forget to follow us on Twitter at SI Now Live. Have a great weekend.